Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. I am your host, Nash, and let's get into it. Game week 37 is done, and we have 1 week left to go. One. Can you believe that? If you've been listening all along, I really appreciate you, and also thank you for just sticking with it yourself. 38 weeks is a big commitment. You have done well. You have done well, and now we have 1 week left to go. How was Game Week 37 for you? With an average of 53 points, how did you fare? So, let me tell you, on the first day, Friday, I was very hyped because I had killed it. I had Van Dijk who had 14 points, I had McGinn who scored with 6, and I had Watkins who had 15. I was like, shit, I'm going for 100. I'm going for 100. And then the FA Cup final happened, and then we moved on to the next day. And things didn't quite go as I would have liked. I ended up with 75 points, so I honestly have no complaints. But my problem is, I should have used the bench boost this week, because I know it's going to let me down this coming week. Because I had 22 points on the bench, I would have finished with 97. But now I have a measly 75 and have got a bunch of 1s and 2s on the pitch, which is making me feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So, what contributed to this week? First thing is Aston Villa trouncing Liverpool 4-2. I didn't see that coming. I couldn't trust Aston Villa because they have been unpredictable. But as you will know by the time you listen to this, because I watched the match, Aston Villa are Europa Cup champions, Emery shines again, and now they're in the Champions League. Now, the thing about this game week is that a lot of things were settled. Bournemouth drew with Man City. Or rather, that's not true. Man City drew with Bournemouth. Bournemouth extended their unbeaten run. And because of this, Arsenal, who many weeks ago had crowned champions-elect, officially became champions. It took 37 game weeks, but they became champions, ending a 22-year drought. But I'm sure we'll get into that in the stats segment. So, the strong start of the game week was sponsored by Watkins, Rodgers, McGinn, and Van Dijk. Then you have Manchester United. Bruno having 2 assists was great. And so for those people who had Bruno, you were sorted. If you had Igor, Thiago, you were bitter because it was Ouattara who had everything that game. I had Mukiele on my team. He did nothing. As always, when I put him, he does nothing. When I bench him, he scores. Everton conceded 3 goals, so if you were counting on the Tarkowski to do something, this time it was Keane. There was no Enzo, there was no Di or Garner or Dewsbury Hall. It was Roll. I'm sure that's a tough cut for many people. A lot of people had Brighton defenders because somehow, if you've listened for the last 3 years, you know that Brighton have not been a great defensive team, but this year they have been much, much better. They conceded in the 90 plus 6 minutes. So if you had Brighton defenders, that one must have stung. But if you had Leeds defenders, you must have been happy. Wolves Fulham, if you were counting on the Wolves, Fulham clean sheet on one side at least, you were let down. If you were hoping for a performance from West Ham, you were let down. If you haven't jumped on the Osula bandwagon, you were let down. I know a lot of people, me included, believed that Gyokeres would be leading this final charge of Arsenal's tail end of the season, but that didn't happen. So Gyokeres, if you had him, you might have captained him. It was 2 points, and that was painful. Chelsea didn't keep a clean sheet, but when do they ever keep a clean sheet? They won 2-1. Enzo continues his run. Neto is back with the assists. Then Man City, Haaland scored. Drew El Krupi Jr. scored as well. A beautiful goal. And so, if you went against... It was a kind of thing where if you were smart, you were let down. But if you went with the tried and trusted guys, you kind of did well. The highest scoring game of the game week, so Aston Villa take on Liverpool. And boy, were we in for a surprise. I thought this game would be a dull affair, maybe at most 2-1. But Aston Villa were just prepping for this Europa Cup final in great style. The game ended 4-2. And Liverpool just continued to look... I don't know what the right word is. But I don't believe Slot will be here same time next year if they continue like this. Because it doesn't seem like Liverpool know what to do. Anyway, this was a game where a lot of things happened. Watkins had 2 goals. Rodgers had a really good goal. McGinn had the goal of the game. Digne had an assist. Pau had an assist. Rodgers had an assist. Watkins had an assist. Szoboszlai had 2 assists for both of Virgil van Dijk's goals. Now, let me tell you, if I had Szoboszlai in my team, that would have been chef's kiss. Now, Watkins got the 3 bonus points. Rodgers got 2 and Szoboszlai got 1. There were 2 mucky games of the weekend, and not because the matchup was big, but the importance, the significance of the game week. And this was for the title, and it ended up being the title decider. Arsenal versus Burnley. Arsenal beat Burnley 1-0, and it was a hard-fought game. There was a questionable red card incident there, but it happened how it happened. Saka had the assist from the corner, and Havertz scored the header, which ended up being the title clincher. Havertz got 3 bonus points. Saliba, Calafiori, and Saka got 2, while Mosquera got 1. And that's how Arsenal clinched the title. On the other end, all City needed to do was to win. But Bournemouth, I don't know what they will do without Iraola. I think Iraola is the only transfer that they can't afford to make, but they're going to lose him. I want you guys to remember that this guy took over from Monk, which wasn't bad, but Monk also took over from Scott Parker, who's like, oh, we can't stay up after that, been beaten like 9-1 or something. And then Monk kept them. And then now Bournemouth are going to Europe because Iraola is a brilliant manager. And I hope he takes over Newcastle. That's where, because I would like him in a bigger club. I think he can manage anywhere, but I think he would do well at Newcastle. I hope that's his next landing spot. Because as you've had me say, I don't think Eddie Howe has what it takes to take them to the next level. Anyway, Bournemouth was the better team this whole game. City had chances, but they were not the better team. Only on paper. Krupi Jr. scored a beautiful curling effort off the assist from Truffert. And in the dying minute of the game, Rodrigo found Haaland and Haaland scored. And I use found very loosely. And that was it. Somehow Haaland got the 3 bonus points. Krupi Jr. got 2 and Rodri got 1. When it comes to a disappointing result, I would say that Leeds 1, Brighton 0 would be a disappointing. Brighton have been good at keeping clean sheets of late. They have been on great form of late, and therefore you would have expected them to not lose this game. But they lost this game in the 96th minute through a bad pass, which Calvert-Lewin, who's had an amazing season, he capitalized on the error, rounded the keeper and scored. Dalot got 3 bonus points. Calvert-Lewin had 2 and Gross had 1. Brighton won the cusp of just a clean sheet, and that would have helped a lot of people. So in that way, it was a disappointing game. Let's look at the round points. There were only 2 clean sheets this weekend, so defense will be tough. Starting with goal, Dalot was a top goalkeeper with 11 points. Raya 6, Amundsen 5, Pope 4, Petrovic, Roofs, Jose Sa 3. When it comes to defenders, Virgil van Dijk, who saved me, 14 points, Robinson 12, Morato 9, Saliba, Calafiori, Bijol 8. When it comes to midfield, Ouattara was the top performer this week, 15 points. Enzo had 13. He scored a really beautiful goal. Enzo Lefebvre also had 13. Rodgers and Anderson had 12. Wharton had 11. Saka and Andre Santos had 10 apiece. Watkins in the forwards led the way with 15 points. Osula had 13. Mane 11. Haaland 9. Havertz, Krupi Jr. and Voltemada were tied with 8 points apiece. So, just because I'm recording this after the Europa League final, let me just add some stats that involve Aston Villa since they won it. Morgan Rogers was the first Englishman to both score and assist in a major European final since Teddy Sheringham did it in 1999 in the Champions League final. Morgan Rogers assisted 5 goals in the Europa League this season, the joint most by an English player in a single campaign, along with Bukayo Saka. John McGinn is the first Scotsman to captain a side to a major European final since Graham Souness did it with Liverpool against Roma in 1984. No manager has won more major European finals than Unai Emery. He's now level with Carlo Ancelotti, Jose Mourinho, and Giovanni Trapattoni with 5. Aston Villa have won their second major European trophy 44 years after winning the European Cup against Bayern Munich in 1982. At 23 years and 298 days, Morgan Rogers is the youngest Englishman to score in a major European final since Steven Gerrard did it for Liverpool vs Alaves in the 2001 UEFA Cup final. Gerrard was 20 years old and 351 days. Virgil van Dijk has scored the most goals of any defender across Europe's Big Five leagues with 6. Arsenal have won their 14th league title and their first in 22 years. Enzo Fernandez has now produced 5 double-digit hauls in the FPL this season. Only João Pedro has had a hand in more goals for Chelsea across all competitions than Enzo. João Pedro is the third best striker in the Premier League FPL this season, with Haaland at the top with 230 points, Thiago with 179 and João Pedro with 176. Gyokeres was the most transferred in player and he played 17 minutes and got 1 point. 433,000 managers brought him in. Gabriel has 208 points this season so far. If he gets another 6 points, he will now become the top point getter for defenders of all time in the FPL. That post is currently held by Andy Robertson, who has 213 points as the best performing season by defender in the FPL. Anthony Robinson is the first FPL defender to take and score a penalty since Fabian Schär did it in the 2020-2021 season. That's interesting. Saka was the second most brought in player and he delivered. Dewsbury Hall was the third most brought in player and he just returned 2 points. If I asked you to name the top 5 midfielders this season, who would you say that they were? Well, I'll tell you. Bruno Fernandes, top, with 221 points. Semenyo, second, with 195. Declan Rice, 179. And those 3, you can see. But number 4 and number 5, Morgan Gibbs-White, 175 points. Number 5, Elliot Anderson. Morgan Gibbs-White had 179 points, tied with Rice. Elliot Anderson, 178 points. How many of you would have put 2 midfielders from Nottingham Forest in your top 5? Speaking of Morgan Gibbs-White, in the last 4 game weeks, he has returned 44 points. Someone who is on a similar trajectory, William Osula, has gotten 43 points over the last 6 game weeks. Meanwhile, Xhaka Bijol from Leeds has returned in 8 consecutive matches. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has scored in 4 of his last 5 matches. Following his performance over the game week, Bruno Fernandes is now the second player to deliver 30 attacking returns in the FPL this season. Number 1 is the machine, the robot, Erling Braut Haaland. With goals against Arsenal, Man City and Man United, Junior Krupi is the first teenager to score against each of the teams, finishing in the top 3 in a single Premier League campaign. Bournemouth are on a current run of 16 games without tasting defeat. It is the longest unbeaten run this season in the Premier League. 16 is nearly half the season. That is quite impressive. Arsenal defeating Burnley was their 8th 1-0 win in the Premier League this season, and their most in a single season since 98-99. Hence the famous 1-0 to the Arsenal. Arsenal have kept 32 clean sheets this season, 6 more than any other side in Europe's Big 5 leagues in all competitions. Since losing 2-1 to Manchester City, Arsenal are the only side to win all of their matches, and also the only side not to concede a goal since. Arsenal have scored a set-piece goal, excluding penalties, in 19 different Premier League games this season, and that is a joint record by a team in a 38-game season. At the age of 24 and 255 days, Saka is the second youngest player in Premier League history to register 50-plus goals and 50-plus assists, behind Wayne Rooney, who had done this by 24 years and 84 days. At 22 years and 28 and 286 days, William Osula is the youngest player to score a brace for Newcastle in a Premier League match since Kennedy did it against Southampton. Oh my, Kennedy, former Chelsea player. Ismail Assar scored his 21st goal of the season for Crystal Palace in all competitions, which is a joint most by any player for the Eagles in a single campaign since 2004-2005 when Andy Johnson did it. Manchester United are now unbeaten in each of their last 400 home league games in which they have led at halftime. They have won 365 of those and they have drawn 35. And that's a ridiculous run which began in 1984. Morgan Gibbs White's goal for Nottingham Forest this game week was the 1,000th goal scored in the Premier League this season, the 11th successive season to see 1,000+ goals scored in the competition. Wow. Bruno Fernandes has now equaled the record for most assists in the Premier League season, 20, leveling with Thierry Henry in 02-03 and KDB in 1920. So, coming game week, he might set a new record. Antoine Semenyo has scored 10 goals in all competitions for both Bournemouth and Manchester City this season. The only other player to achieve that for two Premier League clubs in a season was Andy Cole in 94-95, where he had 15 for Newcastle and 12 for Manchester United. That is such an interesting start. As you all may have heard by now, Mo Salah made another disparaging comment against Liverpool and may miss the game this weekend, and that may be that. That's how his career ends at Anfield. But this season, Liverpool have won 61% of matches with Mo Salah in the starting 11 this season, which is 20 of 33, compared to only 35% without him in 11, which is 8 of 23. Make of that what you will. As you may know, Manchester City defeated Chelsea over the weekend and won the FA Cup. Now, Manchester City in 25-26 are the first team in history to win every single match across both the FA Cup and the League Cup in a single season. That is dominance. With Liverpool losing to Aston Villa, Arne Slot has seen his team concede 4 goals in a league game for the first time since losing 4-3 to Ruud van Nistelrooy's PSV in September 2022. Meanwhile, Unai Emery has picked up his 600th win as a manager, and 107 of those have come with Aston Villa. And that is his joint top most, which is 107 with Valencia as well. Ryan Gumoha played his 18th Premier League game, and at 18, it is the joint most for a player aged under 18 alongside Michael Owen. And if he has a career similar to that, Liverpool will be in good hands. Seamus Coleman has announced his retirement, and he made 372 club appearances for Everton. Only 8 players in English history have made more Premier League appearances for one club than him. Mukiele has surpassed Lundstrom's record by a 4 million defender. Lundstrom finished with 144 points, while Mukiele finished with 147. So Mukiele is currently holding the top as the best performing 4.0 defender. That's where he started at. I know he's around 4.6 now. Pep may be leaving at the end of the season, and it is widely believed that Enzo Maresca will replace him. In this game week in 2017, Harry Kane scored 31 points in a double game week 37, including 4 goals versus Leicester. That triple captain would have been so sweet. Elliot Anderson secures his first consecutive double-digit haul for the first time this season. Will he do it for the 3rd time? Bum, bum, bum. Chelsea have appointed Xabi Alonso as their new manager, and he will start on July 1 and he will be on a 4-year deal. Let's hope he gets to finish those 4 years. Van Dijk scored 2 goals and did not get a bonus point. That's kind of rare. But you know what is so surprising? Van Hecke did the same thing. He scored 2 goals and didn't get a bonus point. But also guess what? Both of these defenders scored 2 goals against Aston Villa. In this game week, 3 of the most sold players had high returns. 379,000 let Rodgers go and he brought in 12 points. Gibbs was released by 311,000, brought in 7. Watkins was released by, or rather transferred out, by 212 managers and he returned 15 points. So transfers out backfired, which must be painful when you consider Gyokeres and Dewsbury Hall were amongst the top 3 brought in. When it comes to DEFCON points, number 1 is Elliot Anderson from Forest with 20 actions. Scott from Bournemouth, 18 actions. Yamuluk, 17. Lukic, 15. Rice, 16. And Martinez, 15. So, those are the DEFCON points. And Anderson is up there. Now you can see how he got those points. Probably the number 1 beneficiary of DEFCON points. Next season, I'm sure he'll be a must-have. The most selected player this week was Haaland. The most captained player was Haaland. The most vice-captain player was Bruno Fernandes. Now, the highest points this week was 131. The average of the week was 53. Bench boost was used this week. Raya had 6, Saliba 8, Gabriel 6, Mateus Nunes 2, Szoboszlai 9, Bruno Fernandes 9, Cunha 9, Anderson 12, Captain Haaland 18, Calvert-Lewin 7, Watkins 15, Darlow 11, Senesi 4, Harry Wilson 1, and Virgil van Dijk 14. And the team name is unemployed, and that's how they got 131 points this week. Well done to you. In our group, Control Alt Delhi is our league top tally getter this week with 89 points. In goal, they had Pickford, who gave them 1. Then they had Diouf, who gave them 0. Then they had Guehi, who gave them 2. Not a promising start. Then Van Dijk with 14. Anderson with 12. Rodgers with 12. Bruno Fernandes with 9. McAllister with 4. Watkins with 15. Igor Thiago with 2. And Haaland with 18. And that's how they got 89 points. In number 2, we had Madman Bielsa, who got 87 points, along with Skyscraper. Brian Rutere and Peter Dennis were tied for 4th and 5th, with 85 points apiece. On the other end, Murungai Manyara, 12 points. His team is dead. But in goal, he had Kelleher, who had 2, Rico Lewis, 0, Kukureya, 1, Rhys James, 0, Captain Salah, 2, Gordon, 0, Sarr, 4, Kudus, 0, Wood, 2, Gyokeres, 1, Ekitike, 0. Like I said, dead team. Tatiana Mislenovic, 23, Rashok Ngalo, 27, Dennis Mutua, 30, and in number 5, we have Mozart J with 32 points. When it comes to the most points on the bench, my dear friend Solo Kamau is hurting the most this week. I thought I'd done badly, but I'm happy to see that they're worse than me. You know, misery loves company. Solo had 29 points on the bench. Bijol, 8 points. Justin, 6 points. Kot, 4 points. Darlow, 11 points. In second place, Suraj Begane had 28 points bench. John Mwangemi and Eric Moranga were tied for 3rd and 4th with 27 points on the bench. Bode Blojevic had 26 points on the bench, and I wasn't far because I had 22 points on the bench. When it comes to the team with the most goal scorers, Aflagani, Nash, well done to me, Peter Dennis, Control Alt Dele, and Naeem each had 6 goals scored by their team. When it comes to the team with the best midfield, Peter Dennis's midfield had 55 points. When it comes to defense, Texas Tens and Oti Omondi had the best defense with 34 points. The team that made the most transfers this week belonged to Mike Mbogwa, who made 7 transfers. LED, Dennis Odera, Buana G had made 4. And in number 5, we have Patrick Phillip, Texas Tens, Edmund, John Mbogwa, Escobar, Madman Bielsa, Okaka, and Emmanuel Ogbogu, who made 3 transfers each. When it comes to the best transfer outcome, Monster at Boot, managed by Dijan Raman Dangol, got 21 points thanks to the transfers made. Well done. They say it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, and you're finishing strong. When it comes to the most points lost due to the moves made. It is. Mike Mbugua made 7 points, lost 24 points. Was better off doing nothing. Fami Zulkifly, 21 points worse off. Escobar Season, David Moy, Edmond Gadumbi, and Patrick Philippe round up the rest of the top 5, having lost 14 points each. Mike Mbugua's team has the best team value, and his team is valued at 106.4. Angular Nayo is on the other end with a team value at a low of 96.1. When it comes to highest change in team value, it seems like there wasn't much change, and the highest was a tie with 6 people: Madagani, Charles Kadevilis, Makmutegi, Ronchi Saka, Mud Akil, Jombogwa, Ayodele, Oladuni, all gaining 0.3 points. When it comes to worst change in team value, Washira Gitahi lost the most points, losing 0.5. When it comes to best differential pick, Watara Dango was chosen by 4% of us and returned 15 points. Watkins was chosen by 13% of us and returned 15 points. Virgil van Dijk was chosen by 19% of us and returned 14 points. Enzo Lefebvre was chosen by 2% of us and returned 13 points. Osula was chosen by 1% of us and returned 13 points. And those were the top differentials in our league this week. When it comes to overall rank rising, Control Alt Tele has jumped 637,000 points globally. Christy Kadevilis has dropped 460,000 ranks globally. When it comes to a streak of green arrows, Young Mula Baby and Jeremy Yego have been having a strong finish and have had 10 weeks in a row of greatness. That's how you finish a season. While on the other end, Murunga has been having a terrible end of the season with 13 red arrows in a row. When it comes to our league, Peter Dennis, Alexander Mutune, and Skyscraper have all jumped 13 ranks on the table. On the other end, Edwin Aor and David Moy have both lost 14 positions in the table. When it comes to captain choices, Haaland was the most popular captain in our team, in our league, chosen by 67. Number 2 was Bruno Fernandes, who was chosen by 38 managers as captain. Gyokeres was chosen as captain by 14 managers. Saka was selected by another 14. Thiago was chosen by 12. Semenyo by 7. Joao Pedro by 6. I hope you guys had a good vice captain. Doku was selected by 4. Salah by another 4. Gabriel by 3. Ekitike by 2. Wood by 2. Sheki by 2. O'Reilly by 2. Halma by 2. Watkins by 2, the real winners. Voltemada, Bowen, Hudson-Odoi, Isak, Grealish, Foden, Gakpo, Raul, Fleming, Bumo, Evanilson, Rogers, Rice, Trossard, and Raya were each chosen by one manager apiece. When looking at our table, the first thing to note is that number 1 to number 5 is unchanged. What has changed, however, is the gap between number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is Arnold Medunga, who has 2337 points. John Wangemi is number 2, and John has 2307 points. So they're only 30 points away. And I think it's now a two-headed horse race. Number 3 is Franklin Asiema, who has 2275 points. Konsi Konsa, Leon Mortier, 2271. Luffy D is number 5 with 2265. And barring an incredible week from Franklin, Leon, and Luffy, I think this thing is between John and Arnold. Teddy Mwalo has jumped into the top 6 with 2259. Randy Augusta has 2257. Papi Chulo has 2250. Madagani Kihoro has broken the top 10 and has 2236. Number 10 is Alan Muchangi, who has 2236 points. And that's how the top 10 is looking. It's going to be a very tight finish. Globally, Eric Ibsen is still hanging on to number 1, but there is a new number 2, Steve Connor, and he has 24.85, while Eric Ibsen has 25.06. So that is 21 points. So there's still a lot to play for at the top of the global table. So that will be an interesting horse race to watch. Eric Ibsen got 54 points this week and had decided to captain Gabriel, which was a very bold choice. Verbruggen had 2, Gabriel, his captain, had 12, Van Hecker 2, O'Reilly 2, Saka 10, Semenyo 1, Bruno Fernandes 9, Hinchelwood 3, Tavernier 2, Igor Thiago 2, Haaland 9. So you can see this manager was deeply affected by Dominic Calvert-Lewin's late goal. When looking at the next week, there are a couple of things to think about. It is a final game week, and this means a lot of things have been settled. So what has been settled? We have a champion. So what does that mean? It means it is likely that Arsenal will not play everyone. Why? Because of the Champions League final. Crystal Palace as well are in a similar position. They have a final coming up, so they may not play everybody. So that Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, I would discourage you from choosing players from both of those teams. What hasn't been settled? Well, the relegation scrap. West Ham or Tottenham will go down. Both teams lost, so both teams have something to play for. Tottenham just need to win, and it doesn't matter what West Ham do. West Ham need to win, and a draw or loss for Tottenham will be a great result for West Ham. Now, something else that is being played for is that number 5 position. Bournemouth, as you know, are on a 16-17 game unbeaten run, and they're currently in 6th on the table. So Bournemouth are going to take it seriously. Liverpool should take it seriously. Brighton should take it seriously because they can finish higher. And Chelsea and Brentford, actually up to Sunderland. So from number 5 to number 10, because there's a race for Europe. Chelsea could find themselves completely out of Europe. Brentford as well. Yeah, that's about it. So it's also going to be Pep's last game. So it's possible that he will play his strongest squad, which is what we're hoping for, and not a roulette. But other teams which are likely to play good teams or strong teams out, like for example, Manchester United have already confirmed that Casemiro will not play this next round. So do not bring in Casemiro. Now, so Sunderland, Brentford, Chelsea, Brighton, Bournemouth, Liverpool, I think are teams that will play their strongest squads. And then after that, I believe Tottenham and West Ham will play their best squads. All games will be played on Sunday, and their kickoff will be at 6 o'clock, and every game will be played at the same time. So we will all know our fates very quickly. So in no particular order, Brighton take on Manchester United. Brighton and Manchester United have not drawn in any of their last 21 meetings. Brighton have won 3 of their most recent 5 encounters, while Man United have won 2. Man United won 3-2 last time out, so they're in good form, and Carrick was rewarded with a contract. Brighton lost unluckily to Leeds. So that is something they'll be looking to correct because they need to be in Europe, and this will help put them there. Manchester United have won 4 of their last 5 games and drawn 1. Brighton have lost 2, won 2, drawn 1. Manchester United will be favourites for this encounter, even though historically Brighton have a better record against them. If you're choosing Brighton players, honestly, Gross, Hinchelwood and Minte are your best bets. From Manchester United, of course, you know you have to go with Bruno, Cunha and Bumo. Burnley take on Wolves in the most useless game of the weekend. This one is just for these guys to enjoy their last Premier League game. This is such a non-interesting game. But Burnley haven't lost to Wolves at Turf Moor in 7 meetings, so Burnley will be favoured. They both have poor form. Burnley have lost 4 out of their last 5 and drawn 1, while Wolves have drawn 2 and lost 3. If you're looking for Wolves players, Mane, Armstrong and Huang are the players I'd recommend. If you're looking for Burnley players, I would say Fleming, Anthony, and Mejbri. Crystal Palace take on Arsenal, and this game, I don't even think I'm going to go over it. Both teams are going to be focused on their European finals, and their squads will be unpredictable. I would like to think that Raya will play because he's probably going to be trying to go for some clean sheet type record. But after that, expect second string to play for both teams. And I predict a win for Arsenal because their second team is better than Crystal Palace's second team. And I know Crystal Palace would be most likely to rest their centre-backs because they've been having a centre-back crisis. So I'm not going to recommend any players from these teams because I don't think the people we think will play. Now, moving on. Newcastle take on Fulham. Both teams did okay. Fulham should have beaten Wolves, but they did not. Newcastle beat West Ham last time out with Voltemada and Osula scoring. And honestly, those are the two I would recommend. And then you can choose either Guimarães or Harvey Barnes or Ramsey as your third player. On the Fulham end, I would say Robinson, if he's going to take penalties and should they get a penalty, he will be able to take it, have them. And then Oscar Bob looked good. He looked so creative. And then Emil Smith-Rowe. Those are the three players I'd recommend from Fulham. Both teams are not in great form. Both teams have lost twice. Newcastle have won twice and drawn once, while Fulham have lost twice, drawn twice and won once. Newcastle tend to struggle away and have won 2 out of their last 8 away matches in 2026. So that's not encouraging. They also haven't kept a clean sheet in 8 matches. But Osula has scored 6 goals in his last 8 Premier League appearances. So he is a definite shout out. Liverpool take on Brentford and both teams are going to be looking for Europe. Liverpool have lost twice, won twice, drawn once, while Brentford have won once, drawn twice, lost twice. So Liverpool are slightly favoured. Both teams didn't do well last time out. Liverpool were hammered 4-2, while Brentford drew 2-2. So both teams will be looking to do better. Last time they met, Brentford won 3-2, with Ouattara, Schade and Thiago scoring. And they will be looking for a repeat of that. Gyokeres and Salah scored for Liverpool in that game. Now, Salah said some things and he may not be allowed to play. He will probably play because it's his Anfield, it's his last game. But honestly, he doesn't deserve to play in my view. Not because it doesn't deserve, but you can't reward that type of talking against the team with a start. But we'll see what happens. Head-to-head, Liverpool have won 4 and lost 1. The last loss, or the only loss, has been their most recent encounter. So maybe given Liverpool's form and team this season, it might be Brentford's way. And should you believe that, Igor, Thiago, Schade and Ouattara are your bets. On the Liverpool end, Szoboszlai, Van Dijk and maybe Gakpo or Salah. Manchester City take on newly crowned Europa champions. Now, the real trick with this game is, will Aston Villa play everyone? That is the real thing. I can't answer that question. Emery might want to finish strong, and if he does, he will play his strongest squad. Now, on the other end, Mr. Pep, this is his last Man City game, and he will want to sign off with a victory. So I believe he will play his strongest squad. And therefore, I believe he will play Mr. Haaland, Mr. Doku, Semenyo. I think those 3 would start. If you believe Emery will want to finish strong, I believe you should have Watkins, Rodgers and McGinn. Aston Villa beat Manchester City last time out, with Matty Cash scoring the only goal of the game. In their last 5 encounters, Aston Villa have won thrice and lost twice. So they have the better historical record. When it comes to form, Man City have won 3 times and drawn twice, while Aston Villa have lost once, drawn once, and won thrice. Manchester City, in my view, will be slight favourites because they would want to send off Pep in good form, while Emery and his men, it doesn't matter. They've won and they've qualified. So that mentality will be different and it may cost Aston Villa. And also, it isn't clear if everyone will play given that they don't need this game. So, if you don't have Aston Villa players, I'll be very hesitant to get into them. and I would strongly discourage you from getting into them. Nottingham Forest take on Bournemouth. This game is going to be fire, mainly because Bournemouth haven't lost in 17 games, and it's the longest unbeaten run in the Premier League this season. 17, nearly half of your games. That's incredible. Now, of course, if they haven't been beaten in 17 games, it means that they have a positive record. 3 wins, 2 draws in the last 5. Forest have lost twice, drawn once, and won twice. Bournemouth are hard to beat, and I believe that they will continue to be hard to beat. Rupi Jr. set the record for the most goals scored by a teenager in their debut season. He's the first person I'll recommend. Evan Nilsson was a joke. He should have scored against City. He didn't. Anyway, so you have a defender of your choice, be it Senesi, Trufa, or Hill, and then Scott and Krupi. Or if you want to go top heavy, Ryan, Krupi, and Evan Nilsson. If you're going Forest, it's the easiest thing you'll ever see. Elliot Anderson, Morgan Gibbs-White, and then maybe a defender like Sells or Morato. Or up top, go with Igor Jesus. But Anderson and Morgan Gibbs-White, should you be choosing to enter this fixture, you should be choosing one of those two as your top 2. Because like I said earlier, they're in the top 5 of the best Premier League midfielders this season. Having said that, Bournemouth have not lost to Forest in their last 7 encounters. I also think that Bournemouth will want to finish strong, not only because of Europe, but because it's Iraola's last match. If Bournemouth manage to get just 1 point, it will be their highest all-time finish in terms of point tally for a 3rd straight season, as in they've been getting better every season. It's such a shame he has to leave. Sunderland take on Chelsea, and this game is going to be important because both sides want to be in contention for Europe. So for both teams, this is a must-win. Chelsea continue to be a bit patchy. They have 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw in their last 5 encounters, while Sunderland have 2 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win in their last 5 encounters. The last time they played, Isidore and Taibi got the goals for Sunderland, while Chelsea got their goals scored by Garnacho. If you're choosing Sunderland players, you have to go Brobbey, Enzo Lefebvre, and maybe Mukiele because I'm biased. On the Chelsea end, Enzo Fernandez finishing the season strong, so I would recommend him easily. I would recommend Neto as well, and maybe the Santos kid. Moving on, Tottenham versus Everton. Tottenham will be playing for their lives. They lost last time out, but their form has been good. 2 wins, 2 draws, and 1 loss. Everton have 3 losses and 2 draws, so their form is abysmal to end the season. Now, when it comes to head-to-head, Tottenham beat them 3-0 last time they played, with Van der Ven scoring 2 goals. I remember this game because I had just removed him. Very bitter. Now, outside that, it is Tottenham 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. So they will be favourites. And should you believe in them, Richarlison, Tell, and Van de Ven should be your top priorities. On the Everton end, you always have to choose between Keane or Tarkowski, and then maybe Dewsbury Hall, and then Beto. Yeah. And the final game of the 2025-2026 season will see West Ham take on Leeds. And this will be another relegation decide. I can't believe either Tottenham or West Ham will go down. It's so wild. Now, just like Tottenham, West Ham lost last time out. They've lost 3 in a row. And then they've drawn 1 and won 1. While Leeds have won 2, drawn 2 and lost 1. They are in better form. Now, West Ham have been struggling to score. Even though the goal they scored for me against Newcastle was the goal of the weekend. That and then closely followed by Enzo Fernandez's goal. Their recent 5 results show that they can't keep a clean sheet against each other. Mateus Fernandes and Disasi scored in the last encounter they played for West Ham. Tanaka and Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored for Leeds. Aronson and Rodon scored in the game before that, while Mateus Fernandes scored in the game before that. So he scored in 2 games in a row against them. So he might be somebody worth having. And not even that, I'll go farther and say have Mateus Fernandes, Bowen, and Wilson. On the lead side, of course, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I would say Bijol, and Aronson. When it comes to captain choices, Brighton versus Manchester United, over here you have 3 choices really. Bruno Fernandes, and Cunha. On the other end, you have Gross and Hinshelwood. Burnley versus Wolves, I would say Fleming and Mane. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, I honestly don't know who will play. So I'm not going to guess. And I would not encourage you to make your captain from that team, especially knowing that they have nothing to play for. They're not even at home. Anyway, Fulham versus Newcastle or Sula. If you don't have Osula, even bring him on for this game. On the Fulham end, no. Liverpool versus Brentford, Igor, Thiago, Dongo Watara, Van Dijk, and Soboslai. Man City, I would say Haaland, Semenyo, and Villa, Watkins, but I don't know if they will play. That's another one. So I wouldn't choose a captain from Aston Villa. Forest versus Bournemouth, Gibbs White, Elliot Anderson. On the Bournemouth end, Rupi Jr. or Evan Nielsen. Sunderland versus Chelsea, Brobby be my first shout. And then on the other end for Chelsea, I would say Enzo. Tottenham versus Everton, I would say Richarlison or Beto. West Ham, Mateus Fernandes or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. The final game week is upon us. Good luck, one and all.